Pink Meadows, can you hear me? Hey, Sarah. Hey, Kath. Howdy, Alexa Marie. I am so freaking excited. We are 2 subscribers away. 2 subscribers away from hitting 50,000 subscribers. I never thought that was possible. I might be a little premature, but I'm sitting here all set up to do a live stream just in case we hit 2. Hey Amanda, hey Powder, hey Fernando, hey Christine, hey Karen Tweed, hey Sarah, hey Shara Riley, hey Susan, hey Darla. Darla, I'm gonna go live if we can hit 2 more subscribers on the channel because I'm 2 subscribers away from 50,000. I never thought that possible. Hey Natalie, representing UK. What's up in Ontario? MS and Living Life. Hey, from Denmark, Jacob, it's great to see you. What's up, Sherry? Guys, I don't know if we're gonna make it, but we're 2 subscribers away from 50,000. Thank you, E. I really appreciate the kind idea. She says, can I subscribe twice? Alex, what's up in Port Clinton, Ohio? Allison, thank you for being here. What's up, Palmer Spencer? I am so excited. I never thought this possible. What's up, Jen McGraw from Maryland? I hope you and yours are doing well. I might be a little premature, but I'm just beyond thrilled. 2 more subscribers and we'll hit 50,000. I never thought that was possible. What's up, Meg? What's up, Lisa? Fernando showing fire. I love that. What's up, Suzanne? Sherry is representing Canada. Lisa's got Mississippi represented. Good afternoon in Oklahoma for sure. Hey, Carla. Hey, Tina. Hey, Elizabeth in Nova Scotia. What's up? Kentucky representing. Justin in the house. Guys, if we can drum up 2 more subscribers, we will hit 50,000 on this channel. I am just blown away. I never thought that was actually possible. Thank you, Sarah Jane, for the flaming heart. That's really, really amazing. What's up, Aiden in New Zealand? That's amazing. Hey Aiden, it's great to see you. Belgrade, Serbia. I spent a great week in Belgrade, Serbia years back. Jennifer, what's up? I'm having a great day. I've been taking care of a lot of odds and ends around the house, but I just checked my feed and I am 2 subscribers away from 50,000. If we can get 2 more people on, I am gonna do an Ask Me Anything live stream and celebrate with you. We just need 2 more. That's right, Michael. A big push for 2 more. Shara Riley is showing love in the house with flames. You know how we do it here. This is so exciting, I can't stand it. Hard Drive USA was gonna take a nap. Watching from Maryland, Lisa Myers. Bulgaria representing, what's up? Hey in Utah, what's up, Sarah Evans? I can't believe this. This is really crazy. Maybe a little premature to sit around and wait for 2 people, but I just can't stand it. I remember when the channel had 1,000 subscribers and I was blown away. I remember when we hit 10,000 subscribers and I thought that was unheard of. I've got England representing. Leslie's in the house. What's up? Vicky is representing in the house. Dennis White, what's going on, my friend? It's great to see you. Thank you for the flames. Jason Bell, hey, how are you? Yeah, man, subscribe from your work email if you would. You'll be the 49,999th subscriber. Kristen showing much love in Houston, Texas. This is fantastic. Suzanne Foster's in the house. Thank you, Christine Arndt. Let me we did it! Oh my gosh, I am going live. Woohoo! I can't believe this. It's on. This is unbelievable. Howdy, hi, everyone. I just updated my feed. There is 50,002 subscribers. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am overwhelmed. I can't believe it. This is phenomenal. Let me turn on the view counter so everyone can see it. There's 101 of you who have jumped online spontaneously to celebrate with me. Thank you very, very much. Woohoo! MS Water Challenge, yo. Oh my goodness gracious. I can't believe that. The chat is going wild right now. I am feeling love. Thank you guys very, very much. I never thought this was possible when I started this channel. If you stumbled on this live stream, my name's Aaron Boster. I'm an MS neurologist in sunny Columbus, Ohio. It's actually really nice outside right now. I started this YouTube channel back, I think, in 2015. And it was really just an effort at throwing out some information on the interwebs. It's evolved and become something very special to me. This community is very special to me. As I've told you many times before, the most amazing part of this channel is you guys. Getting on these chats and interacting with you and answering your questions. I look forward to seeing you guys post in the chat. I look forward to seeing your comments on my weekly videos. I was just hanging around the house taking care of some odds and ends, and I wanted to check my status, 50,002. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am overjoyed. Let's do an Ask Me Anything MS. You know how we do it here. You guys fire away. Hey, my dad's online. Everyone wave to Charles Boster. Dad, thanks for being here. Angela, thank you for the love. This is really, really phenomenal. If you guys are as excited as I am, feel free to throw some hearts in the chat. Feel free to add some flames. You know how we do it. If you jump out of the chat and give it a thumbs up and jump back in, that's another way of teaching the YouTube algorithm that you really like this content. I cannot believe it. Wow. Okay. So what I'm going to do is answer your questions. I at least want to answer 50 questions for 50,000 YouTube subscribers. As you have questions, throw them in the chat, and we're going to do my best. Yeah, Lisa says she remembers when I hit 40,000. I'm overjoyed right now. I can't believe it. Look at all the flames in the chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Woohoo! So NK writes, I've been on Tysabri for 5 years with no new lesions. Is it possible to be like this the rest of my life? NK, that's the goal. Is it a guaranteed? No, it's not. Do I have patients that on Tysabri have been quiet as a lark for 10 years? Yes, I have. I think that you want to strive to be 5 for 5. You want to be on a medicine and make sure it's working. You want to make sure that you're addressing cardiovascular risk factors, that is to say, not smoking and taking care of high blood pressure, cholesterol, etc. You want to have exercise as part of your lifestyle. That's a really key element in MS. You want to eat really smart, supplement vitamin D. You want to up your water game and avoid processed foods. Lastly, you want to practice daily mindfulness. I really hope that you can be that way the rest of your life. That's awesome. Great first question. Wow, I'm going to change the scene every time I answer a question. Here's another one for you. You can see exactly how bald I am. James Williams writes a question. Let me change my view here so that I can see all the questions properly. 1 second while I futz with this. Why can't different treatments, Tysabri, beta interferon, be used at the same time or in combination? Could their benefits be added? James, that's an excellent question. James is asking about combination therapy. The reality is that we have not had great success yet when studying combination therapy in MS. The investigations that have been done have not been terribly successful. I participated in some research several years back called the CombiRx trial, where we used an interferon and Copaxone, and together they barely did better than one by themselves. The other reality is that testing medicines together is very, very expensive. And it would be really tough for MS research manufacturers to pony up the money to test them together. That stated, there is some research looking at what's called induction maintenance. There's a study that I'm very fond of by an amazing French guy named Idan, where they gave people Copaxone, or they gave people mitoxantrone, which is a chemotherapy, then Copaxone. And the folks that took mitoxantrone, then chemotherapy, did way, way, way better. Now, your idea isn't wrong. It might be possible that adding therapies together could be really helpful. And in my opinion, we need to add 3 therapies. There are 3 kinds of therapy that I think we need to bring to the table to really whoop MS's butt. Now, the problem is 2 of them don't exist yet. But conceptually, what I see in the future is we need a neuroprotective agent, something to protect the integrity of the neurons. And we don't have that yet, although there's many neuroprotective agents that are currently being studied. Number 2, we need a remyelinating agent, something to put the myelin back on the sheath. And we've tried and failed many times at doing that. Right now, I think maybe our best bet is this drug clemastine, which is still under investigation. And then number 3, we need a potent anti-inflammatory. And all of the current medicines we have, I consider to be forms of anti-inflammatory. So do I think combination therapy makes sense? Yes, I do. And I think the way that we might really do amazing work in MS is by bringing those specific 3 kinds of therapies to bear. That was a great question. I'm going to change up the scene again. This is kind of a weird scene. Hopefully you can put up with it. So what's the next question? So I'm going to mispronounce this name. Numbness, Nurbzness. I don't know if I said that right. Writes, I'd love to find out where to get an MS specialist. And so what is an MS specialist? It's a neurologist typically who has done extra training, typically in a fellowship, to become sort of laser focused on multiple sclerosis. I have trained 7 MS fellows. I'm very proud of that. They do great work around the United States. How do you find an MS fellow? There's a couple different ways. If you're in the United States, then you can turn to the National MS Society and ask where fellowship trained MS specialists are. If you're involved in an academic center, you can ask them if they have an MS specialist. You can also go to local MS support groups and ask where the MS specialists are in the cities that you're in. But I'm a little biased because I'm an MS specialist, so I think that's always my preference, to find someone who is laser focused. When my father needed to have surgery on his hand, we found an orthopedic surgeon that only operates on hands, doesn't do elbows or shoulders, because we don't need him to know about that. And so I respect that question a lot. Next question, I'm going to keep changing the chat. We have a Snapchat filter, guys, so please put up with me. We're going to go through all kinds of filters today as I answer questions. This next question says, what can be done about numbness and tingling in both arms and legs, in hands and feet since 2018? This question is by Damien D. So when you have multiple sclerosis and you have impact of the spinal cord sends messages from the brain down. For example, if I want to scratch my head, that action starts in my brain, goes down my spinal cord to activate my hand. That's a motor pathway. But there's also sensory pathways where if I touch my hand, that information goes up the spinal cord to the brain. And if you have a high cervical spinal cord lesion, then you can have numbness and tingling where you don't feel sensation normally. Now, if you've had it since 2018, my fear is that might be a fixed deficit. Although sometimes we get lucky with medicines, and sometimes we use medicines that stabilize cell membranes, things that were originally invented either to treat seizures or to treat depression. You guys have heard of medicines like Elavil, amitriptyline. You've heard of things like Pamelor. Those are antidepressants originally, but they can help with numbness, tingling, and pain. We use medicines like Cymbalta, which has a dual indication for neuropathic pain and mood, and sometimes helps with numbness and tingling. Sometimes we can be successful with anti-seizure medicines like Tegretol, carbamazepine, or Gabapentin, Neurontin. And it's unfortunately a lot of trial and error. My concern is if you've had it that long that it might be fixed, but I've been surprised before, and I wish you the very best of luck. Let's switch up the chat filter. Let me see how I'm going to do this. I can't see the filters. Whoa, that's a little weird. That's a silly one. All right, you guys, you know that I love the Viking style helmet here. So let's rock this one out. So I'll answer this next question as a Viking. And where's the next question? So Meg says, my daughter was just diagnosed with MOG and I have MS. Is it related? So MOG is a cousin of MS. So multiple sclerosis is an autoimmune condition that affects the central nervous system. That's the brain, optic nerves, and spinal cord. And it can cause demyelination, where there's inflammation of parts of the brain, spinal cord, optic nerves, which can short circuit things and cause attacks. Also in multiple sclerosis, you can have progression independent from attacks. In between attacks, people can slowly get worse. Now there's a cousin of multiple sclerosis called neuromyelitis optica, which is another autoimmune condition affecting mostly just the optic nerves in the spinal cord and also parts of the brain stem. And MOG is kind of a cousin of that. MOG is an autoimmune condition which mostly affects optic nerves and can affect the spinal cord. And it's caused by a specific naughty antibody. So this is a problem with the humoral immune system, the B cells of the immune system. And there's an antibody that attacks myelin oligodendrocytes in MOG. And I right now have several patients that I'm currently treating with MOG. And the most common effective treatment, at least when I review the literature and in my own clinic, is to use a medicine called IVIG. So when I'm trying to treat a patient with MOG, we typically will start with IVIG, or we'll try to use a B-cell depleter. Are they related? I have to be very honest, I'm not clear on whether there's a tight association between MS and MOG. I will tell you that if you have one autoimmune condition, you're more likely to see other autoimmune conditions in the family. That was a really good question, Meg. Thank you for asking it. Let's check out a different Snapchat filter. I can't see the filters. I'm literally just guessing. Well, that's weird. So I have no beard. Okay, let's answer a question with no beard. I think it's been 20 years since I haven't had a beard. Very, very strange. I'm trying to scroll way up so I can find the next question. All right, I completely lost my place in the chat, so I'm just gonna scroll down and here we go. All right, so I found the questions again. So A Bird says, what do you think of vitamin D for MS? So when I think about treating MS, I wanna use every tool that I can. And I don't want to leave anything behind. And I really feel that nutrition does play an important role in MS management. When I talk about being 5 for 5, one of the 5 is to eat smart and supplement vitamin D3. I say D3 because vitamin D3 is better absorbed in the human body. Now, to my reading of the medical literature, if you have low levels of D3 pre-puberty, it actually increases the risk to develop MS. And if you have MS and you have low levels of D3, that's associated with worse outcomes. So progressing faster, having more MS attacks, even having more lesions on the brain. And so it's our goal at the Boster Center for MS to monitor the vitamin D25OH level. So that's the laboratory that we draw. It's a blood test, vitamin D25OH. And I want that level to be above 50 but below 100. And how do you do that? One way you do that is you go out in full sun, shirtless or in a halter top, and if you spend 15 minutes in full sun, you'll absorb about 5,000 international units of D3, which is great. That's really unrealistic for a lot of people, either because their neighbors will call the cops or because it's really, really cold outside. And so you can do it through your diet, but just doing it through your diet is actually kind of hard. Egg yolks are very high in D3. Fatty fish is very high in D3, although typically the amount of egg yolks or fatty fish you need to eat is insane. So if you think about a 3.5 ounce portion of salmon, which would be like a typical dinner portion of salmon, that's only 600 international units of D3. And I just said you need at least 5,000 typically. And so the way that we typically do that is we take a D3 supplement. You take a pill once a day, or you take a big pill once every week. I actually started a supplement company called Refresh Ohio. And you can check that out at refreshoh.com. And we have some really high-end vitamin D products. I have a daily D3. It's 5,000 international units. And I added K2 to it, which actually helps absorption into your bones. And there's a weekly D3, which is 50,000 units. And those are typically the things that I recommend for patients. That was a great question. This is a very weird Snapchat filter. It made me bald with no beard. So I'm going to change it up because it's kind of freaky deaky. Hey, this is one of my favorites. So now I'm a cartoon. All right, let's answer the next question as a cartoon. So Techno15, great name, says, I always have been told that heat has a negative effect on MS symptoms. I live in a very hot and humid part of Texas. Would it be beneficial to try to stay as cool as possible? So that's a very, very good question. And it's one that I'm asked a lot. Now, some people impacted by MS are very temperature sensitive. Not just heat, but some people are temperature sensitive to heat. Some people are temperature sensitive to cold. So let's talk about both. Now, if you are sensitive to heat, what typically happens is when your body gets overheated, either because you're running or because you live in South Texas and it's freaking 120 degrees in the summer, when your body overheats, what ends up happening to temperature sensitive people is their nervous system short circuits. And so old neurological symptoms can come back out. So for example, let's pretend, God forbid, that you had an optic neuritis a long time ago and you recovered most of your vision. If you're heat sensitive, when your body gets overheated, you lose vision again. Now here's the important piece. You don't cause more damage to your body by overheating. You don't damage your nervous system by being overheated. And when you step away from the heat, when your body cools back down, you regain your vision. And there's no permanent damage that you've caused. And so that's really, really important. And just to talk about cold sensitivity, some of my patients, when they get cold, they get really spastic and stiff. And so if you live in Ohio where it's kind of hot during the summer, some people get weak in the knees, their legs get weak when they get overheated. And in the winter, they get really, really stiff, which is yucky. But neither causes damage to their body permanently. Now, in your question, Techno15, you say, should I stay as cool as possible? It really depends on if you're heat sensitive. If you're not heat sensitive, you don't need to worry about it. And I have patients that are bronzed goddesses. They love sunning themselves. They have no problems in the heat whatsoever. I have patients that love the sauna, and I have patients that love hot tubs. And these people are not heat sensitive. Now, unfortunately, I have a lot of patients that are heat sensitive. And so what do you do if you're heat sensitive? Well, one thing you can do, which I think a lot of Texans do, is you go from air-conditioned car to air-conditioned house to air-conditioned car to air-conditioned office. And you try to stay out of the heat. Another thing that you can do is you can game out when is the best time to be outside. So if you're going to go for a walk with your loved ones, do it early in the morning or late at night when the sun isn't fully up. Another thing you can do is constantly cool your body by drinking cold water. And you can cool the body from the inside. I'm a really big fan of cooling vests. I had a really great conversation with a patient of mine who's down in West Virginia where it's also very hot. And he found this fantastic cooling vest with a cooling neck piece and a full vest, which is like a lot of surface area. And when he wears that cooling vest, he can work better outside. He's much more functional and he doesn't get overheated as easily. There's even a medicine called Ampira or 4-aminopyridine. In Europe, it's called Fampira. And not every patient responds to it, but about a third to half of patients do. And when they do take this pill twice a day, it buttresses against heat sensitivity, which is really great. Now, Ampira has risks. It's a no-no drug if you have a risk of seizures, but for some patients, it can be phenomenal. Let's get off this Snapchat filter because it's weird. Ooh, hey, look, I'm a cool kid. All right, let's answer a question with these cool glasses on. So MS and Living Life, Sherry writes, what happens when we feel like we have a hangover, but there hasn't been any alcohol involved? So there can be a couple things. When you think about a hangover, you think about feeling really, really tired. Sometimes you kind of feel unsteady. And fatigue and unsteadiness or ataxia are unfortunately not all that uncommon in the setting of MS. If someone with MS is feeling that way, one of the things that comes to the top of my mind is, do we need to go looking for an occult infection? So what's an occult infection? An occult infection is when you have a little urinary tract infection, but you don't know it. So you may not even have any burning when you urinate or foul smelling urine. But when someone's really feeling punky like that, one of the very first things I do, I want to listen to their lungs. I want to make sure they don't have an upper respiratory tract infection or a sinus infection, or they don't have an occult urinary tract infection. That was a great question. All right. So Kath says, whoops, I got to change the filter. This is a really weird filter. All right, we're not going to stay on this one for very long because it's kind of scary. So Kath says, can you explain how altitude affects MS? And to be transparent, Kath, I don't have a lot of information in my head about altitude and MS, so I'm not going to make something up on a live stream, but that'll be my homework to look that up. I do want to point out that there's 217 of you online, and that's unbelievable. I'm a Smurf. Let's answer a question as a Smurf. That's crazy. Hello from Romania, Alex writes. I have MS and started my treatment with ocrelizumab about 2 years ago. I was walking with a cane, and after treatment for 2 months, I can walk without it. Wow, that's amazing. Now, let's just jump off this because I don't want to offend people as a Smurf. So let's comment on what Alex said. First of all, Alex, congratulations, and that's phenomenal. And what Alex is describing in the MS world is called, it's called the opposite of progression of disability. It's the resolution of disability. And so sometimes you'll hear people talk about confirmed disability progression. This is confirmed disability improvement, all right? Or CDI would be the acronym. And you may see that in literature. Someone talks about CDI. So CDI, or confirmed disability improvement, is when someone's neurological status literally improves. And this can happen with MS drugs, and it happens more often with the more effective MS drugs. So when we studied ocrelizumab, we compared ocrelizumab against rituximab, or excuse me, against Rebif, forgive me. And so what we found was some of the people on Rebif had improvements to their neurological status. But if you were on ocrelizumab, it was 33% higher chance of having improvement. There was 33% higher chance that you would have CDI. And so I love reading, Alex, that you've made that improvement. I think that's phenomenal. Congratulations. It's not a guarantee that people are going to have that. And I always bring that up because I wouldn't want someone to start a medicine with the expectation that they're going to have confirmed disability improvement. It's something that I think that we can look for. And I'm just delighted that you experienced that. That was really cool. Changing up the scene a little bit for the next question. Yobren Colon writes, I switched from Gabapentin to Lyrica because of pain in my right foot. How do I know when I can stop taking this medication? So here we get into a very important point about MS therapies. So when you're thinking about treating MS, there's really 3 ways that we're treating MS. So one way, God forbid someone has an attack, we give them steroids to hasten the recovery from the attack, to get them better faster. And that's not what we're talking about here. A second way is we take a disease-modifying therapy. And so Alex just shared that he's on a disease-modifying therapy called Ocrevus. And there's a bunch of different disease-modifying therapies. And all of them are intended to slow down MS, to help prevent and stave off attacks in new MRI lesions. And that's not what we're talking about in this question. The third way that we treat MS is by managing symptoms, all right? So we want to manage neurological symptoms. And symptoms are things that stink. And so if you have numbness or burning in your foot, that's awful. And that can happen because you had an attack and it didn't fully recover, and now you're left with a deficit. There was an earlier question today about someone who had numbness and tingling in their hands and feet since 2018. That's another example. And we can use lotions and potions to help treat symptoms. I joke that I have a pill for every ill. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to give you a pill for every ill. It just means that I know about one. And we can try to use medicines like Gabapentin or Lyrica to help with neuropathic pain in your foot. How long do you take it? Well, sometimes you have to take it forever because if you stop the medicine, then the burning in the foot comes back. But other times you might try to use the least amount possible. So for example, we might have someone who develops burning in their foot and we have to put them on a pretty high dose of Lyrica to control it. And after a period of time, maybe 6 months, maybe a year, maybe more, we might try to back the Lyrica off a little bit and see if we can deal less is more. You know, medicines like makeup, you don't want to smear it on, that's ugly. And so I really make that decision based on how much it bothers someone. I have some patients that have burning in their feet and they don't want a medicine. They think that the side effect of the medicine is worse than the burning in the foot, and so we don't treat it. I have other patients that have burning in their foot and they only take a medicine when they exercise. I have a dear patient down in Florida, and that's what he does. If he's not exercising, he can handle it. But when he exercises, the burning in his foot really becomes bothersome. And so he uses a medicine just like you to help dampen that. And he only takes it under those circumstances. Now, unfortunately, there are a lot of patients where the burning in their foot is really, really bothersome. And so they need medicines like Lyrica all the time. That was an excellent question. MS Water Challenge, yo. You know how this works. When I drink, you drink. So drink up, guys. Let's find another question. There's 220 of you online. That's unbelievable. Again, this is an impromptu Ask Me Anything MS live stream. Why am I doing this? I'm celebrating with you because this channel just crested 50,000 subscribers. I'm absolutely blown away. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you. This community is colossal. It really gives me energy. It fills a bucket for me, giving me an opportunity to interact with you. I'm so very grateful. You know, it's my goal on this channel to help energize, to help educate, and to help empower families impacted by MS. And I am constantly overwhelmed by this growing global online community. And I never ever thought that it would hit 50,000 subscribers. But here we are at 50,004 subscribers. So thank you to each and every one of you. And thank you to the 226 people that are online right now to celebrate with me. Woo! Yay, that's awesome. Thank you. Let's take another question. All right, so I'm going to change up the scene. We'll go to this scene for a little bit just to keep it spicy. And the next question comes from Tate Success. So Tate Success says, what do you think about the high dose vitamin D protocol? Many people are in remission through it. So I'm not convinced that mega high doses of vitamin D put MS in remission. But I don't think that mega high doses of vitamin D need to be the only way that we try to treat MS. Now, I don't give people insanely high doses of vitamin D just airy-fairy because too much vitamin D could have some potential risks associated with it. So what I try to do is I check a blood test, and I mentioned the 25OH vitamin D level. That's a serum blood test. And I want the level to be between 50 and 100. And the closer to the 100, better. Now, I don't like it to go over 100. And so if you're taking mega doses, I want to make sure that you're not going above 100 because I think that there's some risks there. That's a really great question. Thank you for asking. If you guys take a look up there, you can see my son's cat, Mewtwo, who is up on his perch taking a nap. He's a pretty great cat. So E has a question, and let's jump back to the Snapchat, but let's not have Smurfs be the way we go. I'm a donkey. I have really weird eyeballs. I love this one. So this is like my ZZ Top impression. All right, so let's answer a question as ZZ Top with this righteous beard. What's the next question? So E writes, do we know all-cause mortality for highly effective DMTs? So it's different with every disease-modifying therapy. I don't have all-cause mortality memorized. And it's actually a rather difficult statistic because after a medicine is approved by the FDA, if there's a death, it needs to be voluntarily reported by the treating doctor to find an association. And we're not required by law to complete that. And so it's really, the manufacturers try very diligently to keep statistics, not just for mortality, but for all kinds of side effects. And oftentimes there's underreporting. So I don't think that there's one statistic alone that could answer that question. So I'm not sure that I can provide more insight there. All right, so let's take a look at another question. Here's a great question, and we're gonna switch up the Snapchat filter. What's down here? This is a fun one. All right. So this is Christmas in summertime. Wild. All right. So Sarah Evans says, have you heard of the Myocycle to help regain walking ability? I have. I have a wonderful patient of mine who lives in Michigan, and he uses a Myocycle and absolutely freaking loves it. If you have access to a Myocycle, I definitely think it's a fantastic thing to consider using. Not everybody has access to one, but I think it's a really clever device. I like it very, very much. All right, let's go back to a different Snapchat filter. Here I have long, gorgeous hair. This is super weird. So Christine Arend asks, pregnancy and MS. 2 under 2 coming in August. Does risk of relapse increase with the second baby? So that's a really interesting question. So having multiple sclerosis does not increase the risk of complications or birth defects or spontaneous abortions with pregnancies, which is really good to know. And being pregnant does not worsen multiple sclerosis. On the contrary, during the 2nd and 3rd trimesters of pregnancy, we tend to have very, very quiet disease. I am unaware of any risks with the second baby as compared to the first baby. Now, with each pregnancy, after you deliver the baby, then you deliver the placenta, and estrogen levels fall back down. In that 4th trimester, there's a slight increased risk of attack, but I don't think that risk is cumulative or gets worse with subsequent pregnancies. So I'm not too worried about that. All right, let's get away from the Snapchat for a little bit, just so I don't have a revolution on my hands. MS Water Challenge, when I drink, you drink. Oh, that's really good. Love seltzer water. So next question comes from Albert Romero. Is it common to have stomach issues in MS? I have MRIs of thoracic, and then the question got cut off. So yes, it actually is very common for people with MS to have stomach problems. And I think one of the issues that we see is this term dysbiosis. So what is dysbiosis? So the gut, particularly the colon, is colonized by gazillions of bacteria and other microbes. And they're supposed to be there. They live inside of us, and what they do is they help digest our food. They help metabolize our food. And they also interact with our immune system, believe it or not. And so the products of the microbiome can interact with the immune system in some really interesting ways. And in the setting of autoimmune diseases, including MS, you can have a jacked up microbiome. You can have the wrong populations of bacteria, and that's called dysbiosis. And how does that typically play out? Typically, we'll see someone who has IBS type symptoms, so irritable bowel symptoms, where they either have, for example, a lot of constipation, or they have a lot of diarrhea. And I think it's very common for my patients to have constipation. And some of my patients, they'll move their bowels less than once a week, which can be really unhealthy and cause a lot of pain and other problems. And so that's not an uncommon thing to see in the setting of MS. Now, before your question got cut off, you said I had MRIs of the thoracic. And so what I'm imagining you're talking about is you have spinal cord lesions in the thoracic spine. And spinal cord lesions certainly can interfere with a lot of the inner workings, particularly of the down theres. Great question. All right, Joe, in a nursing home. Joe, my heart goes out to you, man. I have been thinking about you, and I hope that you're doing well. So someone says, where's the boots, Dr. B? So it's true that I love wearing cowboy boots. Right now, I'm in my home. I'll change up the Snapchat filter. You can get some of my bare feet here. And when I'm in my house, I don't wear shoes. When I'm in my backyard, I don't wear shoes. I think I'm like my mom, and I go barefoot very, very often. And when I'm out at work, I always wear cowboy boots. Russia in like 1914, half the family went to the Midwest, like Columbus, Ohio, where I am now. And half the family, for reasons we're not clear on, went to Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. So I grew up with a lot of cousins and relatives in Texas. And I spent a lot of great summers out in Texas. And we did a lot of family reunions out there. And when years and years and years ago, when my great uncle passed, they mailed me his cowboy boots. which was an unbelievable honor. Now, I don't have those boots anymore, but I fell in love with cowboy boots. And so I wear a suit and tie and cowboy boots most days at work. And I feel like I'm cheating, because if you have a nice pair of cowboy boots, it feels like you're wearing slippers. It doesn't feel like you're wearing shoes. And so don't fret if you see me out of the house, very likely I'm wearing cowboy boots. Those of you that have been to my office know that when I do telemedicine, I have a standing treadmill desk. That was something that I saw Dr. Brandon Bieber do, and I was just blown away. And so I ultimately ended up getting one, and I love it. And I walk in my cowboy boots on my treadmill desk. Thanks for asking that question. All right, I'm going to leave it on this filter. So Jacob writes, I'm on Modafinil. I don't think it works good anymore, even if I take a drug holiday. Any tips? So obviously, wow, there's 270 of you online. Thank you. So Jacob, I'm going to answer your question, but keep in mind that I can't give you medical advice on the interwebs. Okay, so I'm going to share with you things that I oftentimes will talk to my patients about, but you absolutely have to talk to your provider. All right, because this answer to this question can't replace like talking to your provider. So I just want to give that caveat. So Modafinil, which the trade name in the United States is Provigil, is a stimulant. And it's a very effective stimulant, typically. Now, there isn't a dependence to Modafinil, so you don't become dependent upon it, but you can develop a tolerance to Modafinil. And so if you take Modafinil for a long time, it can start to seemingly wear off. So when that happens, what are the options? Well, one option is to go on to a higher dose. And that's kind of a slippery slope, because if you just go to a higher dose, then you're eventually going to acclimate to that also, right? Although sometimes as the disease changes, we need a higher dose of Modafinil. And so the maximum dose that I'm comfortable using is 200 milligrams twice a day in people. Now, of course, there are side effects and you have to worry about like hypertension and stuff like that. But another tool, which you talk about here, is a drug holiday. Now, I have found that taking Modafinil 7 days out of 7 is a recipe for tolerance. So if you take Provigil every single day, 7 days out of 7, then eventually it's going to wear off and it's going to stop working. And so I don't like people to take it more than 6 days out of 7. So if you have, like, let's say a lazy Saturday or a lazy Sunday, or for that matter, like a lazy Wednesday, whatever, then that's a good time to take that day off. And some people, taking 1 day off a week is not adequate. You have to take 2 days off a week. And so some people, they'll take it during their work week and then they don't take it on the weekends. And if they don't do that, then it wears off. Now, I've run into situations where despite all of those tricks and tips, that doesn't work. And then we have to do kind of a reset. And so this is a form of a drug holiday, but it's much more draconian, where you literally stop the medicine for like 2 weeks and you give your body time to readjust to it, and then you come back to it. And that very often helps. Now, sometimes we're really stuck and that doesn't seem to work either, in which case I can change classes of stimulant. So there are other kinds of stimulants, for example, amphetamine salts like Adderall, Focalin, Ritalin. These are other class of stimulants, and they work differently than Provigil. And so sometimes we'll have to put the Provigil away, and then we'll take the Adderall, and we'll do that for a period of time. And so again, this is a really good thing to talk to your doctor about and game out. Now, if you have obstructive sleep apnea, there are other medicines that are specifically approved for sleep apnea, which can help with daytime somnolence as well. And you may end up talking to your doctor, and you may actually ask for a referral to a sleep doctor. One of the things that I've noticed is people impacted by MS can have other reasons of being tired. And if you snore at night, or if you have apneic episodes at night, you may have sleep apnea, and no amount of Provigil is going to ultimately overcome that, and you may need to be fitted for a CPAP machine. If you are getting up at night with spasms and cramps multiple times a night, if you are getting up multiple times a night to go to the bathroom, if you're being woken by neuropathic pain and you're getting really poor sleep, There's no amount of stimulant that's really going to overcome that. And so paying attention to your sleep hygiene is really, really important. Let's go to the next question, and we're going to change it up here. So a different scene. And this is a question from Suzanne Foster. How long can I keep taking Ocrevus? I hear that it's not good to use long term. I'm not sure I believe that. Now, I know that there's a discussion ongoing. I know that my friend, Dr. Brandon Bieber, made a video where he kind of called into question taking it long term. I can tell you that in my own practice, I've had people on rituximab for well over 15 years. I know that in the worlds of rheumatology, they oftentimes keep people on B-cell depleters for a very, very long time. And I don't think that there should be a set time, like 10 years, and then you're not allowed to be on it. That doesn't make any sense to me. What does make sense to me is constantly reevaluating the risk-benefit of a given medicine. And so if you are having recurrent infections on Ocrevus or on Kesimpta or on Briumvi or on Rituxan, that's a concern. And if you consider the risk-benefit, it can change over time. And so I think that each time that you're talking with your neurologist, you have to have a conversation about, does this remain a really good medicine for me? I really like B-cell depleters. They're one of the most used medicines in the world to treat MS, but I do think that we have to constantly reevaluate its risk-benefit. Now, Angela, one of our moderators, says that I'm follicularly challenged, and that is 100% true. As I get older, the more hair grows here and less hair grows here. All right, so let's change it up. We're going to jump back to the Snapchat filter. Don't hate me because I have beautiful hair. Whoa, these are weird. An oldie but goodie. Cool Kids sunglasses. All right, let's do this one. And we'll answer a question from Tim Van, I can't pronounce your last name. I'm sorry, Tim. Spandork. I hope I didn't butcher that. But Tim V says, I inject Kesimpta every month, but 1 week before injecting, my fatigue and muscle tension is very high. Could it be that the B cells are back then? And is it possible to inject every 4 weeks instead? So this is very interesting. And the reason I say that is I have a friend named Dr. Daniel Decker. He's a brilliant MS neurologist on the East Coast. And he and I were having a conversation. He has noticed that some of his patients have a seeming wearing off effect the week before their Kesimpta is due. Now, I'm not sure that it correlates to B cells returning, although I'm not sure how well it's been studied. In my own patients, rarely I will hear that. I don't hear it very often, but I have heard it in a handful of patients. And I think it's something to talk to your neurologist about. Now, the medicine is intended to be given every 4 weeks. And so some months are longer than others. And I think that I would definitely talk to your neurologist about trying to stay on an every 4 week schedule so that you're not having 5 weeks and 5.5 weeks, et cetera, et cetera. But if 1 week out of 4 is yucky, that might ultimately not be the best medicine for you. And so I think that's a consideration and definitely worth talking to your neurologist about. Let's change up the filter. Wacha! Oh yeah! More Viking love in the house. All right, so we're going to answer this question as a Viking with a weird helmet. And this question comes from Shara Riley. I'm doing keto and I feel great. Do you think it's a good diet for inflammation? Yes. I really like keto. Now, I don't feel like you have to be super, super strict. So I sometimes recommend what I call dirty keto, where we're not super, super strict about it. But I do think that a keto diet where you're shying away from carbohydrates, particularly from simple carbohydrates, and you're instead making sure that you're getting adequate protein and healthy fat is actually a diet that I like a lot. Is it the only diet out there? No, absolutely not. Is it the only kind of diet recommended for MS? No, but it's one that I definitely think is really solid. All right, let's go to another Snapchat filter. This is a very silly cowboy hat, but we're going to do it anyways. Now, this next person has a name in a Cyrillic language, and I can't read that, and I don't know the letters, but I can read the question. It says, I'm almost 6 months pregnant. Congratulations. And at the moment, I have a weak attack. Is it dangerous for the baby? I only drink group B vitamins. This is what my neurologist prescribed. So an MS attack should not hurt the baby, right? So I don't think that that's a concern. The only way that, God forbid, things could be hurt is if you hypothetically had a weak leg and you fell and hurt yourself or your abdomen, obviously. But the attack itself should not hurt the baby. Now, also, if you're in your 6th month, so you're in your 2nd trimester, the baby's organs are fully developed, and it's probably very, very safe to give steroids. I try to avoid steroids during the first trimester of pregnancy because that can be dangerous because you have something called organogenesis, which is doctor talk for you're making organs. And so steroids can interfere with that. But after the first trimester, in the 2nd and the 3rd trimester, I have oftentimes had to give a woman steroids. And when I talk to the obstetrician gynecologist, they normally are very comfortable with it. And so, no, I don't think that that'll hurt the baby. And if you did need steroids, it should be safe at that stage. All right, let's get out of the Snapchat. Well, maybe we'll do one more Snapchat filter, and then we'll get out of the Snapchat. What's this one? We've done that before. We've done this before. Oh, this is a favorite of mine. All right, let's answer a question with this mighty beard. I kind of feel like a dwarf. All right. So Frank Gratis writes a great question. Any strategies on reducing a possibility of rebound after coming off Tysabri? Yes. Now, Tysabri is a very effective medicine for MS. It's one of the most effective medicines for MS, and it's an infusion that's given in the vein typically every 4 to 6 weeks. And if you stop Tysabri cold turkey, so you stop Tysabri and then you don't go on anything else for 3 months, there's a risk of a rebound. And a rebound is when you have a really aggressive return of cells into the central compartment, and you can have kind of a multifocal attack, like a really severe MS attack. The MRI is scary as heck. It lights up like Christmas tree light bulbs. Very, very scary. Oftentimes these people are super sick and oftentimes have to go to the hospital, right? So we want to avoid that. So how do you avoid that? Well, one way to avoid it is to not allow a gap. You stop Tysabri, you jump on another medicine ASAP. So, for example, let's say that we were going to go from Tysabri onto Ocrevus or Kesimpta or Briumvi, one of these B-cell depleters. I would want to give Tysabri and then within a month give the next drug. I would want a very short time frame in between. I would not want a washout period. Sometimes there's reasons why we can't start the next drug right away. And anecdotally, what I do in my clinic is I'll pulse with steroids. So let's say that we hypothetically stopped Tysabri January 1st. Well, if February 1st comes along and I can't start the next drug, I'll give 1 gram of IV steroids. And then I would do that again monthly until I can start them on their next therapy. And that's worked in my clinic quite well. All right, let's keep on keeping on here. I'm going to jump back up to this scene. There's 233 of you online. Thank you. I'm really, really glad to be here with you. If you are just jumping online, the reason that I did this impromptu Ask Me Anything live stream is to celebrate that we have just crested 50,000 YouTube subscribers, which is unbelievable. That's really, really phenomenal. I never, ever thought that we'd hit 50,000. And so thank you to each and every one of you that have subscribed to the channel. Thank you to each and every one of you that have followed along over these years. Your participation in the chat, your comments mean the world to me. And as I mentioned earlier, I love this growing global online community. Thank you very, very much. Before I answer the next question, let's bring River on. River dog, come here. Come here, baby girl. You guys know the love of my life, River. Sit. This is my American Mastiff puppy. She's a beautiful baby girl. She's 8 years old, and she's a work doggy. So she comes to the Boster Center for MS almost every day, and she helps patients a whole bunch. She sits with us during infusions. She sits with us in clinic and helps people not feel so anxious. And she loves when people bring her treats. So she's about 180 pounds of absolute love. Mwah. Hi, baby. You want to say hi to the internet? Say hi to the internet. All right, go sit down. Go lay down. Good girl. She's always at my side. I spend more time with her than any other living creature. She drives in the car with me to work. She spends the day at work with me. She sleeps in bed with me. She's superb. I adore her. All right, let's tackle another question. So Lisa Myers writes, I've been on Ocrevus for over 5 years while working full-time on my feet, and I feel like my legs are going to give out. Now, Lisa, those are not necessarily related. And so I want to really focus on the second part of the question. You're working full-time on your feet, which is really hard for humans, any human, particularly a human with MS, and you feel like your legs are going to give out. And so I really want to tackle that. So one thing we need to figure out is, are you having an MS attack? Or are you having a pseudo attack because there's an infection going on? And let's assume for the sake of the question that's not the case. If it is, we would obviously want to treat that. So then we get into, when you say that you feel like your legs are giving out, is it a muscle problem, like they're not strong? Is it a problem where they get really heavy? Is it a heat sensitive problem? Are you deconditioned? And so based on those things, it'll kind of help tell us what we need to do. I would be very curious if we were to enroll in some neurophysical therapy and we strengthen the lower back and the butt, we strengthen the belly, we strengthened your legs, your quadriceps, your hips, your hamstrings, your calves. If we could strengthen those things up, that might help a tremendous amount. We can certainly do that with neurophysical therapy very, very effectively. Also, we might need to look into managing discomfort and pain. We might need to change shoes and things like that. Another thing which is really important is work accommodations. And so some people, they don't have a choice. They have to stand. For example, they work as a waiter, right? So a waiter's going to be walking around a lot. But there are other people where they might be able to sit. So I have patients, for example, that work at a Honda plant, where they're standing in front of a machine and they're operating a machine in like a factory setting. And we can sometimes get reasonable work accommodations where they can sit on a stool, or they can, another thing you could do, even if you're a server, is you can have a work accommodation to take breaks, where maybe you can sit down for 15 minutes every couple hours and rest your feet. And so I think that there's a lot of things that we want to do to try to tackle problems like that. All right, let's go to another question. We're going to change up the scene again. So Common Sense Prevails asks a really good question. I need to lose weight. Can we take Ozempic with MS drugs? And you have to look at which MS drug, because there's a lot of different MS drugs, but generally the answer is yes. Now, anytime that you're going to start a new drug, you need to make sure that the doctors involved are making sure that there's no drug-drug interactions of concern. Now, to answer your question specifically, I need to know which MS drug we're talking about. But just to speak generally, yeah, you can probably do that. And I have patients on MS medicines that are on Ozempic or other medicines to help them lose weight, and it's been working really well. And so I don't think that's a problem. So we'll change this up again. We'll use this scene. And this time, Pam has a question. I take a very low dose of baclofen daily. I would like to, in regards to CBD, THC full spectrum, can I take it while on baclofen, and do I need to keep them hours apart? So again, the medical caveat, Pam, is that I can't give you specific information for you, because I don't have your full record and stuff like that. And so you, of course, need to talk to your MS neurologist about this question, but I will try to answer the question more generally speaking. So yes, you can take them on top of one another, but you may have increased side effects. So for example, baclofen can cause sedation and THC can cause sedation. So you wouldn't want to take your baclofen and take your THC gummy and then pass out, right? Now, they also can be synergistic as far as their benefit. Baclofen is taken for spasticity. Oftentimes THC is taken for spasticity. So it really has a lot to do with the side effect profiles. I do not find that within my patients that baclofen and THC on top of each other creates a major problem. But again, you absolutely have to talk to your MS neurologist or your neurologist to make sure that the specifics for you are okay. The reason that we jumped online today is because we hit a milestone that I never thought possible. There's over 50,000 subscribers to this channel. I am absolutely delighted that so many of you are willing to jump on and celebrate with me. It's a really special moment for me, and I want to thank each and every one of you. My name's Aaron Boster, and as always, thank you so much for learning about MS with me. Thank you for participating in this growing global online community. I make a Monday morning video, and I'm not going to stop doing that. As long as you keep watching, I'll keep making them. I recently have put together some really exciting videos, I think, or at least I hope. I have a video coming out tomorrow, Monday, where I share 3 things that I'm really hopeful about the future of MS treatment and research. So I hope that you look forward to watching that. I have a video coming out on Limtrada and my thoughts on Limtrada in 2023 and whether we should still be using it. Yes. I also have a video that I'm really excited to share with you coming out on menopause and MS. And so that's going to come out in a couple weeks as well on a Monday. Some of you participated in my most recent live stream I did maybe a week ago, and there was a host of questions that I didn't get to, and I've literally made 5 separate videos going over all those questions. And so those are going to be coming out throughout the next several weeks and months, and I'm going to do the exact same thing with this live stream. So when the live stream ends here, I'm going to go back through the questions, and if there's questions that I didn't get to, don't fret. I will turn those into separate videos. And so I want to say thank you. This is a celebratory moment. Thank you very, very much. Please continue this love, this growing global online community that means so much to me. And until my next video or live stream, this is Aaron Boster celebrating 50,000 YouTube subscribers. Thank you, everyone. Have an amazing rest of your weekend and have a wonderful week. I'll see you next morning when I launch my next